All right. Good morning, everybody. Hope you see the screen. This is hopefully the first time when we did not screw up the stream itself. And we can thank you so much for joining. So, let me just make sure that everybody hears everything. Just making sure. Cosmos, if you could tell me if you hear everything. Oh, good. Good day. Okay. Mr. IDK, thank you so much. Glad to see you as usual. Sound is good, right, guys? Let me know if the sound is not good, please, because we tried this game. Okay, so let me just make sure. Okay, good. Cosmos, thank you so much. Okay, good. All right, so hopefully you guys still watched the last video, and that's what I would like to reflect on today. Specifically on the last video where we discussed the decentralized versus centralized bridges, provided evidence why most bridges, cross-chain bridges out there are centralized. So just to recap once again, there are essentially, let me open up the presentation, there are essentially a couple of ways to go. I'll just go through this presentation a little bit, but there are two main mechanisms currently to go from chain A to chain B. And as we presented before, that is an amazing opportunity, right? It's a money-making opportunity as well. But most importantly, it's a connectivity opportunity, right? To make sure that we are moving closer to the Web3 future, where we can move between chain A and we can move between chain B. So the best way, most likely at the moment, I mean, you will be cursing me, but I believe that the best way to move from chain A to chain B is actually a SEX, central exchange. Of course, there are some bad actors, includes FTX, which is kind of alive, but we're not sure what's happening. Mt. Gox, that's a famous one that led to a huge hack. It was perhaps the first most known, the first largest exchange in crypto before it got completely hacked. Binance and KuCoin are still alive, and there have been some hacks of Binance and KuCoin as well. But of course, there's so many others, including the ones that I don't want to put on list as far as the logos, such as Coinbase, for example, right, or Gemini. And I believe that centralized exchange, SEX, is a much better path to move from chain A to chain B if you guys need to move from one chain to the next. And maybe, just maybe, we are not targeting 100% of the population, right? So let's actually discuss who are we targeting with this solution. We are targeting super early adopters, like potentially innovators. Like if you look at that, at the crossing the schism or whatever, where that bell curve came from. So let's assume we have 100% of people. 100% of people, how many of them care about crypto? So based on some type of analysis, we're looking at 1 million people. Now we're looking at maybe 500 million people who are involved with crypto. Although I kind of disagree with the statistic. I, for some reason, believe that it's a lot more. The reason being is Indonesia is a huge market with 200 to 300 million people, and so many people in Indonesia are crypto friendly. Nigeria, massively, absolutely massive player. You have upcoming Argentina with, I forgot how many. What's the number? They have Venezuela, 30 million people, right? Massively involved. You have Russia, 140, 150 million. You have United States, significant portion of Americans, Canadians as well, are in the game, right? Whether just to allocate percentage of their net worth for diversification purposes or whatnot. In fact, I was listening to a podcast by a pretty famous asset manager who has a bunch of ETFs published with some huge, whatever, 2 billion or 200 billion. That's a huge difference, but 2 billion or 200 billion of attracted retail and institutional flow in the ETFs that his company is offering. And he mentioned that, listen, people ask me questions: should I get into Bitcoin? Should I not get into Bitcoin? And the answer is, like he said, the answer is, not satisfactory for crypto maximalists, and also not satisfactory who believe that crypto is a Ponzi scheme. The answer is proportional to the overall net worth. So if you're looking at the global net worth of, let's assume, $400 trillion, and we're looking at crypto at, say, 2 trillion market cap, maybe 3 trillion market cap. So it's almost 1%. So he's advocating, well, how about we allocate proportional amount of funds into real estate, proportional amount of funds into gold, proportional amount of funds in stocks, global stocks, not just American stocks, and also proportional amount of net worth into crypto, with almost 1% going into crypto. Even Wall Street is discussing those things. They have been discussing since 2017. I remember I was presenting at a Wall Street conference back in 2018. And we've been already, in discussion with how Wall Street could potentially integrate with crypto blockchain overall. So in any case, given huge size, I don't believe we're talking about 300 million to 500 million people, but let's assume that's the number. So that's the number of people who are more or less involved in crypto. Maybe they have a Bitcoin or have a Satoshi or have, bought shitcoin XYZ. So what is the subset from 300 million to 500 million people that we are really targeting with the bridge? Well, that's a fraction, right? That's going to be definitely a fraction of this. So if these people are crypto friendly or crypto friendly, right? People, we are looking into heavier subset who understand the importance of just Web3. So we're looking at Web3 maximalists to some extent. And it's not fair to say that all Bitcoin maximalists only do Bitcoin. That's an unfair statement. That's just not true. There are some Web3 maximalists on our team as well, and I'm more than sure that they're not dealing with just Bitcoin. However, when we're talking about Web3 maximalists, we're talking about the fact that, okay, there's this huge switch from Web 2 and towards Web 3. That's a revolution. That's crossing the schism. That's a massive freaking 100x innovation. And the core of that innovation is that in Web 2, you can create accounts for your specific whatever, right? However, the login and password of that account creation still belongs to some centralized database. Yes, it's decoded to some extent, encoded to some extent, and you can decode as a user, but still, that whole database is stored on a centralized server or servers, and once hackers get access to it, boom, you screwed. Web3, on the other hand, is nobody has access. So the storage of login and passwords is decentralized. That's the whole point. So you are the only person who has access to your own wallet. All that information is stored locally on your machine and nobody has it at any point of time. None of that stuff is stored on a centralized server or servers. And that creates an opportunity and that creates risks. The opportunity is that, well, now we are decentralized. We have to be responsible for our futures. And it's up to us, to make it or not make it. The risks are, well, be freaking careful about your passwords. Don't lose them, right? Like, treat this as a bank. Treat your computer, treat your machine as a bank would do it, right? Bank hires security. Bank has security cameras, security, detail people, right? Like cybersecurity, right? Like significant amount of funds are spent on everything with the word security. And you cannot just, be very, hands off with your security measures either. So read a couple of books on how to be more secure and you should be good. However, the problem is not Web 2 or Web 3. That's all great. The biggest problem that is killing us all, and that's been killing us, I believe, at least since 2016, at least, is this clan of Web 2.5, and those like that cluster Web 2.5. They should burn in hell. That's what Vitalik Buterin on the video said. Centralized exchanges should burn in hell because they are trying to be Web 3. Yeah, we're Web 3, but they're not, and they're not kind of Web 2 either because they don't have all the licenses. Like they don't abide by all the laws. They offer unregistered securities, because it's impossible, right? It's very difficult to compete with Goldman Sachs because Goldman Sachs lobbied all the necessary laws and stuff. So how do you compete with that? Of course, Goldman Sachs of the world is going to make it harder for KuCoin to obtain all the licenses in the world to offer products to Americans, Canadians, Europeans, and stuff, right? So KuCoin, for example, will have to go for emerging countries with a lot less capital available, and therefore the growth of the pace of growth will be significantly lower than if, say, KuCoin had access to those markets. Now, of course, we have this amazing player Coinbase, right? Quote, quote, amazing, because magically they're getting all the licenses. Quite magically they're striking government contracts left and right. That's because their platform is fucking, great technology. But people who are in the space for a long time know the Coinbase platform drops by accident or on purpose every time there's a collapse in crypto. And of course, we don't have any evidence of what the actual problem of the platform is. The official response is that, the traffic is so huge during declines that everybody's rushing to check their stop losses and stuff that the service just can't handle it. So we're talking about 21st century and AGI, and Coinbase cannot build a fucking server backend properly. I mean, that's a joke. That's the official response. The unofficial, kind of the rumors, is that they just kind of make all the servers break so people cannot close their positions, so people get closed out based on the stop losses, and Coinbase as an exchange makes money, right? And that exchange that is always fucking breaking, every single decline, every single drop, the platform is unavailable. That has been a joke now. Getting all the licenses in the world because of great tech. I mean, that's obviously another rumor that Coinbase could be potentially affiliated with the Goldman Sachs of the world. When we say Goldman Sachs, we don't mean Goldman Sachs Bank. We just mean the banking system. So then the question is, if Coinbase is Web 2.5, heavily affiliated with Web 2 players, what is the fucking point of Web 2? What is the point of Coinbase? Like, why are we even trying as customers to vote for it by using it? Why are we not seeing the kind of the difference that Web3 is only going to develop if we have Web3 players, pure Web3 players, Web3 maximalists. But the majority of 300 to half a billion people don't care about this. All they care about is the next shining object, the next NFT, the next this, the next that, the next Dogecoin, the next Bitcoin, the killer of Ethereum, the killer of Solana now. Ton is no longer a killer of Ethereum. Ton is a killer of Solana. Imagine that. So now Solana is number 3 because they spend so much fucking money on advertising, while Solana is also Web 2.5. We're going to do a video at some point of time. Why is it Web 2.5? So that's the biggest problem, right? So we're essentially the antagonists of the reason why Web3, the reason why we're not seeing so many use cases, the reason why Web3 is not growing as fast as it could have been is not because of regulations even, it's because of Web 2.5. Web 2.5 players blind us. They blind us to the point of forcing us to use them, or forcing many people from this pool here who are not very much familiar with the technology of Web3 they're masquerading themselves as Web3, and therefore the people from this pool are just using those products. Therefore, Web 2.5 get more and more funding from investors. Eventually, Web 2.5 products, I wouldn't say almost all of them, but a significant majority of them collapse, bring in super negative reputation onto Web 3 space. But in reality, it's not the Web 3 that is failing us, it's Web 2.5 that is failing us. And what I wanted to present is maybe this, let me show you where. 1 second. This one slide that will hopefully make it a little bit more, and we'll potentially also cover today how Ghost works. 1 second. Yes, this one. So this slide. That's the most important slide of today. Let me see if you guys have any questions in the meantime. How do I check that? Yeah. Okay. So let's essentially draw a parallel that a lot of people will be afraid to draw. Here it goes. This is Web 2. There's nothing wrong with Web 2. Web 2 by itself, pure Web 2 is great. We have amazing players in Web 2. We have Apple and Microsoft, Amazon, Magnificent Seven, Google, Tesla, Facebook, Meta, and Nvidia, and a bunch of other companies. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with Web 2. Web 2 by itself, pure Web 2 is great. Then we have Web 3. And there's nothing wrong with Web 3, but Web 3 is GigaChats, right? So it's Bitcoin and Uniswap, Ethereum, SushiSwap. We do have pure Web 3 protocols. Aave, Compound, those are Web 3. MakerDAO with DAI, those are Web 3. There's nothing wrong with that. Ghost is Web 3. The problem, so there's this, kind of Wojak Web 2, there is this GigaChat Web 3. The problem is Web 2.5. Right, so that's the oxymoron. Those are the players who are trying again to appear Web 3. And the reason why they're trying to appear Web 3 is because they get valuations of Web 3. Because Web 3 valuations are so freaking high. And the reason why they're so high is because of scarcity. Because there are so few projects who understand how difficult it is to build pure Web 3. It's extremely difficult. The difference between Web 2 and Web 3 is in Web 2, you can build stuff as you go and you can iterate. In Web 3, you have to understand all the actors and functions, majority of that, prior to building stuff. And the iterations is limited. Significantly limited. Because smart contracts, some of them, even if upgradable, still difficult to make all the changes in the world. Lots of hacks, right? So all the business logic is unchained. So you need to test it. You need to make sure there are no potential vulnerabilities. Smart contracts get outdated sometimes, right? Due to Solidity being upgraded and finding new and new vulnerabilities. That's if just we're talking about smart contracts. What about blockchains themselves, native chains? You need to take into consideration the super heavy lift of what is the consensus protocol? How does it work? Will it incentivize users to join? How do users, what's the tokenomics like, right? Is the flow of tokens enough between players, users, potentially founding team, potentially DAO, future DAO. So is everybody incentivized to maintain and expand the existing ecosystem within the constraints of that specific blockchain? Now for Ghost, that's even more complicated because we have a native chain, but that's a meta layer chain that is in a decentralized way connecting all the other blockchains. What's the complication right there? So for us to, for Ghost to connect, let's assume, let me go to another slide. Let me go back actually. For us to just like a super, super fast example, let me show this on. Let me show this on this slide right here. Yeah. So for example, check it out, right? So let me put the map, put the pen. Okay. So for example, Ethereum block is 10 to 15 seconds. That's the block production time. That's how much time it takes for transactions to pull together into a block. And then the block will be added to the blockchain. So blockchain is a chain of blocks, and blocks consist of transactions. So it takes 10 to 15 seconds for Ethereum to create a block with transactions and be added to the chain. It takes about 2 to 3 block finality. So 2 to 3 block finality means that essentially after almost a minute, actually maybe it takes more, 5 to 6. In any case, 2 to 3 block finality means that after 3 blocks, so after 45 seconds, the previous 3 blocks are completely finalized by the entire network. right? So there are no soft forks. That's the longest chain accepted. Boom, done. On Polygon, let's assume that same block production time is a second. Arbitrum, I'm actually not sure, but let's assume it's 5 seconds. I think BNB is also faster. I think it's like 5 seconds. Like I like don't quote me on any of these, right? Let's assume it's 5 seconds here, 5 seconds here, 1 second here. So with all such different block production times, what we need to make sure, we need to synchronize these blockchains together via Ghost. How can we do that? Well, we are doing this through the so-called VM synchronization, so synchronization of virtual machines. So we're synchronizing the states of all the chains using essentially something called Sputnik VM, which is a virtual machine that is super fast. And because it's super fast, it's so much faster than EVM, we are able to synchronize the blocks. Right? It's a little detail, but it's such an important detail, because like let's assume there's chain XYZ that comes with 0.01 second block production time, which is going to be super stupid for them, but let's assume they do that, and let's assume we need to integrate them. How can we do it? Well, we'll need to make the synchronization of the virtual machines on that specific chain XYZ with all the other blockchains to make sure that there are no hacks and no vulnerabilities. Heavy task. So of course, there's just one little example why Web3 is so complicated. If we are building pure Web3, and the whole point of the video that we presented on Thursday, whatever, a couple of days ago, was that not most, but like absolute majority of bridges out there, cross-chain bridges out there, are centralized, and kind of the reason why that's important for us, like why should we care? Like, okay, centralized, okay, great. So Ghost says it's centralized. So what? Well, it's not just Ghost who is highlighting kind of the problem of centralization or not, because almost nobody does now. Like Vitalik used to be highlighting whether it's centralized or not, whether certain projects are centralized or not. Vitalik Buterin, the co-founder of Ethereum, but even now he is more or less kind of shut down, most likely quieted down, maybe by regulators, maybe by competitors, maybe by VC, who knows. But he's a lot less vocal now than he used to be. So there has to be a vocal player in the space saying, hey, listen, this project is centralized, don't use it. This is Web 2.5, don't use it. This is Web 2.5, it's like it's a virus, it's a disease to us. Don't use it, like don't go there. And of course the response you receive always, well, the user experience is better. Well, no shit, because it's Web 2. Like, where user experience is better? Google. How about you use that? Facebook has great user experience. Use that. Why do you need to go to crypto if you are going for user experience? And user experience almost always connected to what? To money, to upside. And yes, I understand we live in this world where upside is everything, right? People need money to survive, and many people joined because of the incentive, and the incentive being the monetary incentive. However, there are so many other incentives that we should be considering when we are talking about Web3. We're talking about autonomy of operations, so nobody can close your stuff, nobody can take your stuff from you, because you are the only person who has access to your own wallets. We're talking about decentralization, which is pretty much similar to autonomy, right? You can talk to anybody on the network. You don't need to ask anybody's permission. If you're operating in a pure decentralized ecosystem, you can talk to person A, person B, person C without any restrictions. While in the real world, person A may not be on your network, or he or she may be on your network, but then he or she needs to go through everything, God knows what. Like, for example, let's assume we are talking about Zelle network, right? Payment-to-payment network in the U.S. banking system. So what if your bank, let's assume I have Zelle, and the person I want to send the money to does not have Zelle. So that person needs to install Zelle. For them to install Zelle, or to get access to Zelle, they have to go to the bank that has Zelle. Most banks have it. Some don't. So let's assume your bank doesn't have Zelle. Okay, so now you need to open another bank account. Good luck doing that. right? They have to, check everything. And then it will take like a week to open the account because you need to fund it too. So, okay, opening an account takes 10 seconds, but funding it, you can fund it, but then the money will take like a week to go through, like 3 to 5 business days. And then there's, of course, a holiday in between. So good luck. It's going to be like almost 10 days. All you wanted to do is just send $100 through Zelle. And people say, well, use Venmo or use PayPal. I get it, but we, unfortunately, with PayPal and Venmo, we are getting into similar issues right now where we have to, in the US in particular, we have to put social security numbers to validate the account, right? So that's more than KYC. That's not just your name and last name. That's your identity right there, right? And whoever has access to your social security now has instant access to your credit history, maybe at some point of time to your medical history and so on and so forth. So it's very, very complicated as far as, decentralization in the real Web 2 world. With Web 3, all you have to do is install a MetaMask, right? You install the MetaMask. It takes you, I don't know, if you're skilled, maybe 5 minutes. Okay, let's assume 15 minutes with carefully recording the passwords. If you have some, funding to fund that MetaMask, you'll do that within, on Ethereum, it's going to take you less than a minute. On BNB, it's going to take you less than 10 seconds. And that's it. You don't need to wait 2 weeks. That's called decentralization, right? So you can, essentially, the network can onboard another user sufficiently fast. And what they're trying to do right now with Web 2.5, they're actually trying to slow down such adoption. That's why Web 2.5 is a fucking curse to all of us in Web 3. Another benefit you get from Web 3 is, kind of anonymity, right? Because I remember I mentioned that before, and I'm going to keep mentioning it going forward. I was talking to this super affluent investor in gold, Bitcoin, and Uber and Airbnb and whatnot. And his motto is always bet against the government. So he invested in Uber because Uber was, debating the status quo of taxi cabs. And he invested in Airbnb, same thing, against the cartel of hotels. Obviously, Bitcoin and gold miners and stuff, right? So he invests, his motto is, again, bet against the government. Like, as long as your investments are against the government, you're going to do super freaking well. And one particular replica, when I was interviewing him, was, it's nobody's fucking business how much money you have. Quote. It was a quote, right? Based on the essential, on the privacy, right? Like privacy of your investments. But everybody in Web 2 knows how much money you have, where your money is. And you have to trust the system that the money will not be taken from you. Well, you can ask not Tom Hanks. You can ask, all these actors who have been recently, recently sued, and ask them what happened to their funds when they were sued. Most likely, most of their funds have been frozen, right? So, and then the question is, how can they defend themselves if their funds are frozen? Let alone anybody who allegedly breaks the law, a securities law or something, right? In the banking space, banking industry. Your funds will be mostly frozen. So they know where your money is. And you know that they know. And you have to trust that they will not take it from you. But what if they will take it from you? And we had precedents like that. For example, gold. Gold has been mandatory to be sold to the government. And something is telling me that we could get to the point where, Bitcoins, Ethereums, etc., all the cryptos, you'll have to forcefully sell it to the government at a discounted price, of course. It could happen. So crypto, pure crypto, gives you an ability to be, to be private with your wealth. Naval Ravikant said that there's not much, goodness from being rich. It's way better to be rich and anonymous about you being rich. So, essentially, it's way better to be rich while nobody knows that you're rich. That is super rare. And that's what Web3 gives us. That's a massive, massive, massive utility. So going back to the fact that, yes, unfortunately, most people join Web3 because, because of another shiny shitcoin XYZ, and they would like to 10x or 20x the investment. Yes, that's amazing. Unfortunately, those use cases of meme coins in particular, for the most part, have been happening due to centralized exchanges. For the most part. We definitely have examples with Shiba Inu, for example, right? Like, which is smart contract based. But had we not had centralized exchanges, some of those bullshit trends of meme coins, for example, would dissipate, and all the attention and the the funding and the effort and the focus of development teams will not be around meme coins because they can make quick bucks, but it will be about creating real use cases. But of course, when you are diluting the focus, especially with money as a reward for developers, what they do? I mean, of course, they're going to go for for the lowest hanging fruit, which some cases it was meme coins, sometimes it was NFTs, and all that digression, unfortunately, it is happening with help of Web 2.5 projects. That's why we are so heavily going towards Web 3. That's why it's so important for us to be Web 3, to the point where if you support Web 2.5 and you still think that Web 2.5 is a good idea, maybe Ghost is not for you. Maybe you should, no hard feelings, right? Like, we respect your opinion. Maybe we are wrong, but Ghost is not for you, right? Ghost is for those who believe in Web3 future. Ghost believes in pure decentralization. Just quick example, I think, as the last example for today, and if you guys have any questions, please throw. Lots of people are asking, okay, cool. So let's erase Web 2.5. Let's erase all the exchanges. Like, let's erase Coinbase and Binance and KuCoin. And let's assume they don't exist. Then how would people be onboarded to crypto? It's so difficult to be onboarded to crypto. Well, essentially, how would person A, Joe Schmo, how would he be able to buy Bitcoin? Because he has fiat currency, so he needs to spend that fiat currency at Binance to buy Bitcoin, and now he has Bitcoin. Now he's onboarded, now he could be Web3. Well, the answer to this is what has been the promise of crypto. And some projects have been going for that, but they have been shut down because there was no interest, because there was a lot more interest in Web 2.5 shitty projects. The idea is to create a marketplace where you can buy certain things with Bitcoin, with crypto. I remember in one emerging country, back in 2017, there was a coffee shop. You could buy coffee for Bitcoin. I doubt that in that specific emerging country, that same coffee shop is still open, or at least accepting Bitcoin. So we had that, right? So essentially, I don't need fucking fiat, right? I don't need to onboard myself from fiat to crypto. I can just sell coffee, collect my Bitcoin payments, and I'm automatically onboarded onto Web3. Let alone digital products, buying servers, buying domains, buying, what else online? Well, yeah, buying any type of services, right? Like, marketing services, advertising, Telegram, like development of any sorts, right? Like, so all of that stuff could be purchased using crypto. So why are we not developing the marketplaces, connecting crypto owners to buying certain things, like buying real estate? Buying real estate, that's like maybe too much, right? Like, that's a natural progression, but maybe that's a little bit too much. But how about just, buying cups of coffee, buying lunch? And there are countries like El Salvador that is going for that. There are some sections of, I believe it was either Costa Rica or Panama that is having an island, essentially, where you can, spend crypto. Like, it's an autonomous kind of heaven, crypto haven, right? Essentially, like, no taxes. It's not Vanuatu. It's like somewhere in the Caribbean, but it's not even a country. It's like a portion. Like, it's like this island or something. So you can spend your crypto for anything there, for hotels, for the stay, for the jobs, for the food, for any types of service, right? So that's, I think, what we are lacking. So if you're going to go pure Web3, there are solutions to all the problems that Web 2.5 people trying to tell us that, that are actual problems. They're not actual problems. The actual problem is an inflation in the currency, or in the fiat, where we as savers are punished for saving. So we have to invest and take risk. So therefore, instead of becoming the top video producers or the top developers, the top architects, the top teachers, the top doctors, we have to understand how markets work, because unless we invest our money into something, our money will be inflated away. So therefore, that focus from being a super great doctor is not being diffused by that same doctor having to do additional research on his or her investments. And that's a shitty life that I don't want to live in. I want to live in a world where, I could be a great architect, a great builder, a great painter, a great whatever, and focus on that and not being afraid that my money is being diluted, because I'm already adding value, and that value should be preserved. And cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, Ethereum already solving that problem, and our goal with Ghost is just to connect those cryptocurrencies together to make sure that we have this decentralized layer of connectivity that in the future could potentially be connected to the marketplace where you could actually spend that crypto. So I'm done with this with today. If you guys have any questions, let's wait a couple minutes. Please ask your questions, through your feedback. Ask your questions about today, ask your questions about the video of the bridge, maybe the questions about the roadmap. But we are moving super fast. It's July, and we are going to be unleashing the Ghost chain very soon. The team is working, to be honest, day and night on developing user interfaces, figuring out user experience for and staging essentially staging the phases of the product development. So we'll be sharing more and more UIs and how this will look like. And yeah, we're looking very, very strong for August, September to give you guys the first version of the Ghost where you can start running nodes. So let's wait for some questions if you guys have any. And today was the first time when we didn't screw up the when we did not screw up the stream. So thank you so much for your patience. All right, so no questions. If you want to ask questions, they're going to be in Wales. Some people asked for the recording. We're going to send that video to them. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we will speak to you guys next week.